Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the SWISH Show with myself, Ryan Tuckwood, and today we're going to do something a little bit different to the norm. Rather than interviewing someone, or indeed myself being interviewed, I just want to share a few insights of what I've seen over the years leading up to the Christmas period, or any sort of break in play, I guess, in a business scenario. So whether that be the end of the financial year, we're coming up to Easter, well, whatever it is, right? There's usually a few sort of trends that we start to see. So my aim for this particular podcast is to keep it short and sweet, but most importantly, give you guys some practical little tips that you can take away so you finish the year on a high. Now, the overarching message, I guess, of this show is sales, business, and life. Today is about kind of bringing all three of those together and making sure that we have a real kind of direct focus on two things as we start to phase towards the Christmas break. And they are pipeline and prospecting. Pipeline and prospecting. Now, if you're making notes through some of this podcast, and I know some of you do, please write down for me this first, I don't know if it's a quote, but this first phrase that I like to live by. You are only as enthusiastic as the length of your pipeline. You're only as enthusiastic as the length of your pipeline. Now, in the sales world, right? Let's get kind of granular there for a second. Or even business and sales, right? For me, they go hand in hand. If you're in business, you're in sales. If you're in sales, you're in business. You run your own business within the organization. So if you're an employee right now, I'm talking to you. If you're an employer, I'm talking to you. Now, as you finish the working day and you want to switch off in the evening, you finish on a Friday, you want to switch off for the weekend, you finish on the 31st, you want to switch off until the start of the month, or indeed, we lead towards the Christmas time right now and you want to switch off for a couple of weeks, spend some time with your family, maybe have a few drinks and forget about all the stresses that maybe 2020 has kind of brought upon you. The only thing that will truly enable you to switch off and not be consumed by all the pressures of survival and sales and what might or might not come in January is walking out on the last day of the week, the month, the year, the calendar year, the financial year with a full pipeline. If I take a quote from Mr. Jeb Blunt, who I interviewed recently on this podcast, he likes to say, the pipe is life. The pipe is life. In sales and in business, your pipeline is absolutely everything, and you have to live and breathe by it. You have to be fanatically obsessed with filling it. Not just closing deals, but actually generating new business and getting new people to know who you are and getting their attention. Because it's only that funnel that you create that gives you a sustainable business. Quite a lot of people will say to me that, oh, well, Ryan, we do okay. We get a lot of word of mouth, and that's kind of how we've run the business over the years. Now, that's fine. That's fine. Like, you can run that way if you like. That has a cap, and it either keeps you localized or it leaves you hoping that you're going to keep getting word of mouth and you're going to keep getting referrals, instead of taking control and driving traffic towards your business. So today I really want to give you a bit of an understanding how we can maximize that and how that can then lead you towards having hopefully a really relaxed and enjoyable Christmas. Because right now as I speak on, Jackson, what's the date?
It is the 3rd of December.
The 3rd of December. Depending on when you finish, the chances are you've got roughly 12 working days left of the year if we go all the way till about the 18th. So call this the 12 days of Christmas prospecting special, if you like, right? You've got 12 days to truly take control of your business or your sales pipeline. Now, depending on when this is released, I think it's going to be released in a few days. Yeah. So take that as you will and work out from now, from today when you listen to this, right now I take control. I talk a lot about there's three things that you can control in life. A lot of you will have heard me say this before. We summarize it with the acronym ARM: your actions, your reactions, and your mindset. So right now, you can make a decision to choose what actions you take. You can choose what actions you take every single day in the working environment. How much prospecting are you going to do? How much follow-up are you going to do? How much self-generated new business are you going to try and drive? How many contents of value are you going to create? How many touch points are you going to try to get with your clients over the course of Christmas as well? That's up to you, right? Only you can decide that. On the flip side of it, we might have a really terrible end to the year. You might not be able to control some of it, but you certainly can control the way you react to it. 2020 has blown the rulebook wide open, but you get to control how you react and you respond to it, and whether you do bounce back, whether we let it roll over into 2021 and start to consume another year. Because guess what? The reality is, who knows what COVID's going to do next year? We don't know if we're at the start, the middle, or the end of this. We have absolutely no idea. But one thing I do know is that whatever happens, I'm in control. And when you do that, when you control the way you act and the way you react, you therefore control your mindset, which is where a lot of people really, really struggle. So a couple of things I want you to think about is within your pipeline, you may have big deals and you may have small deals. You may have small, medium, and large deals. We like to call them big fish and little fish. So we have our little fish, our smaller deals that for all intents and purposes are worth less or lower than $10,000. We have our big fish that are upwards of $10,000. And then we have our whales, which may be our six-figure deals. So we've got 3 different criteria and pipelines that we would be looking to manage at all times. But that's all well and good just knowing what they are. What you now need are certain metrics to work around so that when you walk out at the end of the day, you can go, I'm on the right page, right? I'm tracking along in the right direction. This is how we do ours. So we suggest to our team that as a non-negotiable, when they walk out of here at the end of every single day, the ideal scenario is to have at least 20 small fish in your pipeline. That's 20 people or businesses that have shown interest in one of our products that is valued at less than $10,000. Okay, take these numbers and adapt them to your own. Then we look at having 5 big fish that are upwards of $10,000. Okay, so there are a couple of non-negotiables. So let's say, for instance, it's a Thursday morning, just made a sale, I've just closed a big fish, and that big fish was worth $14,000. They've paid, they've come on board, they're now going to engage our services. Fantastic. We can rest on our laurels, we can ring the bell, we can high five everybody, and we can slack till the rest of the end of the week. Or we can look at our pipeline and now say, I only have 4 people in that pipeline. Your job is now to fill that void. So by the end of that day, you got to do everything in your power to make sure that you're walking out with 5 in that pipeline again. The same can go in reverse. Let's say, for instance, we've got 20 people in our pipeline in the small fish, and then one person says, listen, I am not interested. Leave me alone, never call me again. If that's the case, they now move themselves out of the pipeline, you're now down to 19. Your job is to replace that person as quickly as possible. So yes, I understand that we have to focus on revenue, we have to focus on sales, but what I also encourage you to focus on is that pipeline. Making sure that you always have enough big fish and you always have enough small fish in there so that your sales and your revenue can almost become predictable as an organization. So if we know that we close on average at roughly 20% of our big fish, if I've got 5 people in the pipeline, I know I've got 1 deal every single day. If I know I'm closing at 20% for my small fish and I've got 20 people there, I know I've got 4 deals in the pipe, 4 potential deals that day as well. Now what that does is when you wake up in the morning and you know you've got, you guys that are in direct sales right now, or you've ever been in a sales capacity, when you wake up in the morning and you know you've got a big appointment, you know you've got a client sitting there, they're a yes or no at 9 o'clock, they've been through your proposal, you've done your demonstration, you've spoke to them about your products or services, and they've said, call me on Tuesday at 9 o'clock, I'll have sat with the board Monday afternoon, I'm ready to make a decision. You can barely sleep, it's like Christmas Eve. You get in here early, you get in the office or wherever it is that you do your business and you're ready to go. And that's an intrinsic motivation you can't falsify. But what we can do is control it by controlling the pipeline. So what I encourage you to do is focus on the front end, and especially now as we lead towards Christmas, because the habits and the trends that I touched on earlier are this. We go, it's been a tough year. Why don't we we're going to wipe this year clean, we're going to forget about it, and we're going to go again in January. But it's still only the 3rd of December. We're still early in the month. We've still got a couple of weeks left. You've still got lots of time now to make an impact. Because in sales and business in general, we often say that sales is a roller coaster. Some of you may have heard that phrase before, sales is a roller coaster. I disagree. I think prospecting is the roller coaster. What we see are the results of lazy days of prospecting. So for instance, you might be having a slow week right now. You might not be making many sales. I don't think that's because you're having a slow week. I think it's because you had a lazy week a few months back. Again, if I reference Jeb Blunt in Fanatical Prospecting, he lives by his 90-day rule. And what he suggests is that the work that you put in today and for the next 30 days will pay you in the next 90. Now, obviously that's relative to your industry and the sales cycles that you have. But the crux of that is what you are doing right now today are going to pay you in the next 90 days. So if you do have a lazy day, if you're not quite feeling it, if you're back off your holiday and you just want to ease yourself back in and get up to speed, and you don't have an ability to drive enough fresh leads into your business, you're going to have a slow few days in the future. So for every one day where you slacken off, you're going to have 3 days of what would be perceived as underperformance and not selling. And then what happens is we try and train people on how to close on the back end. They're not closing, they're not making sales. That's not the problem. The problem often is, and I see this with high performers all the time, is that they become complacent about the front end work and they weren't filling their pipeline. Now, every single day here at SWISH Sales Coaching, I get a daily feedback email from my team. And in that email, they let me know how many dials they made, how many connects, how many Zoom meetings they've conducted, how many meaningful conversations they've had, how many presentations, how many trial closes, and ultimately how many sales they've made. So if I've got somebody this week that's underperforming or not making sales, I can quite easily look back in my calendar and look back into the Excel spreadsheet, and I could see roughly 90 days ago, they either had a holiday, they might have had a couple of sick days, or indeed they weren't actually hitting the front end numbers with regards to filling their pipeline. It's really, really easy to keep an eye on it. So the key message here, guys, is that they just have to become non-negotiables in your everyday action. So prospecting isn't something that you do once a week. Reaching out and trying to generate new business and create fresh leads isn't something that you do once a week, once a month, or once a quarter. It's something that we can put into our every single day action. Same for me with social media, administration, CRM updating. You wouldn't leave all of that and do it at the end of the month. We make sure we're doing a little bit every single day. So if you can just imagine for a second that we've got a bar chart. Let's say, for instance, it's Monday, you generate 2 leads. Wednesday, you do 3. Thursday, you do 1. Hang on, did I miss a day out there? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Monday 1, Tuesday 3, Wednesday 4, Thursday 1, Friday 5. There's your roller coaster. Your roller coaster is on the front end with your prospecting, not on the back end with your sales. So what you need to do is find out what is your nominal performance, and don't just kind of lowball it. So for us here, the team are tasked with generating 5 fresh leads a day. 5 leads, 3 demos. 5 leads, 3 demos. 5 and 3, 5 and 3. They're overhearing me talk about it. But what they do know is if they put 5 fresh leads into the pipeline every single day, they put 25 people into the pipeline every single week, 100 people a month, 1,200 people a year, we know what pops out the back end. So all they have to do is focus on what is actually the hardest part. I get that. Right, filling the pipeline is hard. It can be a monotonous task, which is why most people never reach the true heights of sales professionalism as they could, because we get complacent, because we like to deal with the inbound inquiries, we like to deal with the warm leads, we like to deal with the referrals, and we like to do account management and just touch base with the people that are already in our programs or utilizing our services and just say, hey, how are you going? Just giving you a quick shout before Christmas, seeing how you're tracking. Do that. Do those calls, but between 9 and 5, it's business on, right? So you guys can make a choice right now. Are you going to spend the rest of the year letting it fizzle out into a little bit of nothing and then let your whole pipeline run dry and then have 2 weeks off over Christmas or even more, and then have to get yourself running again in January. Might take you a week or so to kind of find your feet, shaking off all the cobwebs, you've got a little bit of a hangover, then you've got to start to build your pipeline. It could take you a couple of months before you start seeing figures on the board again. That's demoralizing. And all of a sudden you're well into the first quarter of 2021, and you have no motivation, no direction. You're starting to question everything again, and we're just back to where we are right now. Or you can grab it by the scruff of the neck right now and say, right, this is the tail end of 2020. I'm going to take control. I'm going to go head down, bum up, and do everything in my power for the next 2 weeks to make sure that over Christmas I can relax, because I know I've put so much into the pipeline. Guys, if anything, you need to go 20, 30, 40, 50% above what you're doing right now, because you're going to be having a little bit of time off, most of you, right? So hopefully that gives you a bit of an understanding of what that looks like. And what I also want to touch on is maintenance of that roller coaster, right? People say to me, Ryan, well, that's all well and good, but how do we maintain our non-negotiables? How do we kind of stay strict around that? What's it come down to? Quite simple. Time management, daily structure, and discipline. Time management, daily structure, and discipline. There is the same amount of time for everybody. We've heard this many, many times. I've been fortunate enough over the years now to surround myself with some extremely high performers, some people that are running multiple businesses internationally, hundreds of millions of dollars, some of them billions of dollars a year. They have young families, they have kids, they have responsibilities outside of work, and they still get more done than people that are employed and they work 9 to 5 and they tell me they're too busy. It comes down to your desire to continue to do something, your discipline, and having a structure in the first place. So what I want to do is quickly just share with you the structure that I use here to keep me as hopefully what I would consider to be a high performer and very productive every single day, and not procrastinating. In its most simplistic term, it's broken down into 30%, 30%, 30%, and 10% of my daily structure. So let's say my working week consists of 50 hours. All right, in 50 hours, if I was to take 30% of it, that's 15 hours of my week. Now, at the start of every single year, the first thing I do, and guys, I'm not a big fan of writing goals at the end of the year or the start of January, just because the calendar's ticking over. Anybody that's done our training or has been through our training academy will know that, right? It doesn't make sense to me. If you're listening to this today, you can start your goals right now. But I've already scheduled for the whole of 2021 my diary. I've got 4 holidays booked. I've got all of our Swish boot camps booked, all of our accelerators booked, all of our masterminds booked. I know exactly when I'm going to be doing physical training, which is the first 30% in my daily structure, because it means that I can actually switch off and enjoy my Christmas break. I haven't got to be worrying about it over Christmas. If my team are making any bookings, I'm usually about 3 to 4 months in advance for physical training. If they're making any bookings now, I haven't got to worry about it. Are they squeezing them into somewhere that I don't want to be training, or I've promised my wife I was going to take her away and I haven't been able to stay on top of it? I'm actually totally in control of my diary because it's blocked out ahead of time. So something else that you can do right now is exactly the same. So if you take 30% of your working week, whether it be 30 hours, 40 hours, or 50 hours, mine is 50 as a bare minimum. I wish it was 50. Let's just take that as an easy number. So I'm going to block out 15 hours of my week for the next 12 months. And I'm going to call that doing my job. Doing my job. My job is to be a sales coach. My job is to deliver training to people and businesses all around the world, whether physically or digitally via Zoom predominantly. So that's blocked out, right? That's nice and easy. The second 30%, which is another 15 hours, is what I call training my team. So spending time working internally on my own staff. We then put a little caveat next to that and we say it's called training, coaching, and mentoring, TCM. And my team have the ability and the freedom to book 30 minutes into my diary every single week in the TCM slots. So they're already blocked out. They just choose the TCM slot and they can book in for 30 minutes so they can get some one-on-one time with me. They just put a letter next to it. Do they want training? Do they want coaching? Or do they want mentoring? For the purpose of this quick podcast, training is knowledge transfer. So that would be where I teach them something for the very first time, knowledge transfer. Coaching is repetition of old content, something that I've shared with them before and we just need to kind of recap it. Some of you might have heard this before. This is exactly what this is. It's coaching. And mentoring, which is more so mindset. So this is about making sure that they are still in love with the job, making sure that if they've got any challenges or hurdles on the outside, any stresses that they might have that might be interfering with their working day, is there anything that I can help them with? And get them to really open up so you can get to know your staff inside out as well. And then the final 30% is what I call business development. Now, the first part I put in my business development is sales. Firstly, as a sales coach, how would I dare train you guys if I wasn't still keeping my own sword sharp? Right, so I've got to be selling as well. Secondly, I love it. I love having those conversations. My aim for next year, I'm engineering my weeks to get myself more hours to actually sell because I still get a buzz out of it. Selling is impact. And the true impact you have is at the moment that somebody says yes to you. The moment that you get to that value exchange and they go, do you know what? Yes, I would like to use your services. So why would I not want to do that more often? Obviously, as we've been growing this business for the last 6 years, I've had to delegate that responsibility to other people and put trust in people, and it's worked. But for me to fulfill my passion and not just achieve, but have fulfillment at the same time, I'm engineering my week and my time and delegating my other tasks so that I can actually sell more. So that's one of my business development tasks. Another business development task might be this: creating a podcast, creating educational material, working on the 1%ers of the customer experience, so people that are using our online SWISH Academy. What is their experience like in there? Is there content they want creating? What about when they're navigating it? Is it clunky? Can I make it easier for them? Is there documents that need making? So think about your user experience. Think about how easy you are making it for people to come on board and use your services. Remember that in 2020, Google suggested to us that people don't buy on price anymore. They buy on convenience and they buy on experience. So how easy can you make it for them to use your services? And how enjoyable is the experience with you? So thinking about all of that in your business development time. And the final 10%, we just call that variables. Variables. So when shit hits the fan, and it does, things could happen at any time. And we just have a very clear bit in our calendar that is designed for when something comes up and somebody comes running in your office and they need you, and you can go, okay, brilliant, I will attend to that and I will do that between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock tomorrow because that is the time that I left free for things like this, which means you can now just mentally focus on the task that you were already doing. Right? It's been proven that we have an inability as human beings to multitask. As much as you think you can, we can't. We can't juggle lots of balls and spin lots of plates at the same time. Women can do it better than men, but we have an inability to do it 100%. So what we need is that counterbalance where we're either all over here or we're all over here. So for me, between the hours of 7:15 and 8:30, I'm in the office and I'm all in the office. Between the hours of 5:30 and 8 o'clock, I'm at home and I'm present with my wife and my kids and I'm all in. And she knows that. And then from 8 o'clock until midnight, I then get back on and start working again, back on my computer. But that's okay because it's communicated with everybody around me. That's what I call counterbalance as opposed to trying to find work balance. So guys, that's pretty much what I wanted to really talk about today. A little task that you can kind of do on the back end of that is when you break down your 30-30-30-10, firstly remember it doesn't need to be those percentages. If it needs to be 5 20s or 10 10s, if you've got 10 different tasks, you're wearing a lot of hats, that's fine. But make sure you define what those tasks look like. So if you've got sales, break that down even further. Define what does sales actually mean. What is a sales orientated task? If you're somebody that does a bit of a pre-call stalk, for instance, on your clients or your prospects before you call them, don't write down pre-call stalk or research your customers. Make sure you've got a definitive metric to measure that against, especially if you've got a team, right? Because I could go out there to my team right now and say, hey guys, make sure with your big fish, you spend a little bit more time researching them before you pick up the phone or jump on a Zoom. Now, a little bit more time will mean different things to everybody. I could have some of them would spend 5 minutes researching, some of them would spend 50. So what you need to do is make it quantifiable. So what I would say if you're doing things such as that, say your pre-call stalk is 5 minutes or 3 pieces of intelligence that you need. So if you can find those 3 pieces of intelligence in 2 minutes, get into the interaction. Make the call, jump on the Zoom, whatever it may be. If you can't find the 3 pieces of intelligence you need within the 5-minute marker, you get on the phone. So your threshold is either time or intelligence. And make sure that you choose one of them and you stick to it and have the discipline to do so. Guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Either way, I do wish you have the most fantastic Christmas, regardless of what's happened this year, right? It is a time for us to kind of be together with our families. It's a time for us to switch off. A lot of us, unfortunately, are not going to be able to be around our families. This time last year, my parents were out here from the UK, and I keep getting the this time last year message at the moment, which is pretty sad, because obviously we don't know when they're going to get out here again, and I've got a new baby boy, and when they're going to get to see them. But remember, focus on what you can control. I can let that get me down, my family can let it get them down, or I can choose the way I react towards it. And the way I decide to react towards it is go, hey, we're also very fortunate that we've got a lot of video conferencing and software that I can literally pick up the phone 24/7 and see my parents right now and show them their grandkids. What I can do is spend the next 12 to 15 days working my ass off at work, filling my pipeline, so at least I don't have that as an extra stress on top of everything else. So when you do walk back in January, you come into a full pipeline, you're fully motivated, you're ready to go, and ready to make 2021 the biggest year that you've ever had. Guys, I hope you enjoyed that. Looking forward to doing lots more of these again next year, and I'll see you very, very soon.